Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the National Guard products number 428E DKB. The 428 is representative of this profile, and that profile makes it an 8-inch wide threshold. That's half of an inch tall. Well, the 428E, that's all the part number. The DKB in the part number stands for the fact that this is a dark bronze anodized finish. A 428E, in absence of DKB, would get you the same threshold in a mill aluminum finish. This is a saddle type threshold. If you use your imagination, it's shaped like a saddle and is a fairly common threshold in terms of not only its shape but its dimensional properties. As we said earlier, and evidenced by the image below this video, 8-inch wide, height, half of an inch tall, and that is handicap compliant. Back in the original days of handicap compliance, a half-inch threshold wouldn't be, but it is now. UL 10B and 10C fire rated up to 90-minute and up to 3-hour. This is going to be also BHMA certified, which is the national organization that governs hardware. National Guard lists the wall thickness of the material at 0.109, and they give that there so that you know how thick the weather stripping is, but it's also an indication that it's a bit heavier than standard, or it's a bit heavier than what you might find elsewhere. So if you're comparing thresholds from one manufacturer to another, take into account this is 0.109 inch thick. Okay. Now, we had said earlier that this is a fairly common threshold, and it is. 8-inch is very typical. Half-inch is very common. You're going to see those sorts of widths of the threshold where you have a deeper frame. Imagine if you had a 7 3/4 jam depth or an 8 3/4 hollow metal frame jam depth. Very common. You might have an aluminum storefront frame that's going to be 6-inch, something in that range. This could be common as well. Also, where you're going to see a wider threshold versus like a 5-inch will be a condition by which you want to, well, you might want to take the threshold and literally cope the profile of the jam into it so that you can take the threshold and literally place it in between the frame, caulk the base of it, and then have the face of the threshold run long against the face of the frame back to the wall. So in a scenario like that, if you had a 3-foot door, you might order a 40-inch threshold and then cope it and place it in. Some people like to be able to protect the very bottom of the frame. You'll see where surface rust initiates on a hollow metal frame installation. It's always at the bottom of the jams, about a 1/2 inch, 1 inch up, something in that range. You have the threshold run long, you seal, you caulk the top, the joint between the threshold and the aluminum, and you're in real good shape there. Another reason people will want an 8-inch threshold is because perhaps what they need to create is a custom offset threshold, and they need 6 7/8. You're not going to find that anywhere, but you could take this threshold, turn it over, and rip it down and give yourself a custom sort of threshold. Since I've got it turned upside down, you'll notice a feature here, that circular sort of prep. Now that is, that allows for an option called an FS. If you had a 428E DKB FS or a 428E FS, FS stands for foot seal. National Guard will also supply this with an inserted piece of vinyl in here and here, the whole length, so that when you place this down on your sill, you have some protection from the bottom of the threshold to what it's sitting on. Normally this would be caulked. Not normally, it ought to be caulked. It normally isn't, is the truth. That vinyl foot seal is going to really help keep water out from under the underside of it, getting down into the anchoring system, corroding the rest of the sill over time. And there's no question that you give a threshold a 10-year lifespan and you pull it out, regardless of its condition, there's going to be corrosion underneath, whether it's a door or a window or whatever the case is. Doing as much as you can to prevent that is great, is good. So If you order the FS version, that's what you're going to get. There is a link below this video to a document called Product Brochure, and that's very handy because it shows you all of the E version of their saddle thresholds. 5, 6, 7, 8-inch wide, 9-inch wide, 10-inch wide. All give you the ability to put that foot seal down at the bottom. The 4-inch does not. I have in the past ordered a couple of strips of 1/8 of an inch thick neoprene that would come out of a door sweep closed cell. I would lay a little bit of adhesive just to keep it in place, bring my threshold down on top of it, and I might even go in there and trim the excess off after everything was secured down. But you know, however you work around that is up to you if you do anything at all. So that product brochure will show you the 428's immediate sister product, which is handy. You know, a 10-inch threshold is not uncommon. You know, I've done, you know, recently I did a couple of doors that were, the jambs were 12 3/4 deep. What are you going to use, a 5-inch threshold? You know, it needs to look like it belongs together with the frame. So use your best judgment based on an audit of the sill condition and also an audit of... Now, this threshold is listed in the website in several different lengths. Should you have need for a custom length, by all means let us know by ordering the next longest piece or pieces, and simply indicate in the comment field what net length you'd like for us to cut the material back to. The reasoning is this. This is 8-inch wide. You may not have a saw that's going to make one clean cut through an 8-inch piece. You may not have the ability to drill a hole and then countersink it. You'll note that there's one hole in the center here and down the entire line. When you get to 9-inch, there's probably going to be a soldier stack, and certainly 10-inch. Keep that in mind. You can also order these with no holes whatsoever should you need to place them in strategic locations. If you ordered a custom length, we would not only locate that countersink at the proper distance from the edge, but the proper center to center as well. The logic of doing that is if you had to take this 3-foot piece and cut it down to, say, 32-inch, you'd certainly eliminate that countersink that's there. It's tough to drill a new countersink. Sometimes you may not want to do it, you may not have the time to do it, or you might have 50 of these to do. Just order them the right length and we'll locate it. The reasoning of having a properly dimpled threshold for the fasteners, because the fastener is a flathead screw. As you can see here, it looks like about a number 10 by 1.5 flathead sheet metal screw. That flathead needs to sit into a countersink. With a large threshold, with any threshold, but especially this, there's a lot of lateral force. And it's just a screw that's sometimes held in just with a plastic anchor. And that over time is going to continue to move and wobble out. I've seen countless installations where someone just drilled a hole and didn't countersink it and put a screw into it, couldn't tighten it very well, and sure enough, that was done. A lot of weight on, that weight compresses the threshold, comes back up, forces the anchor out. It's just a matter of time before it's literally a failed installation. I personally, when I install something like this, a larger threshold, or a threshold that is known that is going to get a significant amount of weight to it, something that's a 1/4 inch thick and you might be installing it in a car dealership showroom, is I would use machine screws and I would use lead anchors is what I would use for that, a lead expansion anchor. And if you've ever used that anchoring system, you know how durable it is. So the point is you can always take a threshold installation to the extreme. It just turns out that with a threshold installation, the extreme is usually the best way to go. Thresholds are set it and forget it types of hardware, literally. And I don't think you want to revisit a failed threshold installation later on down the road. Now, in conclusion, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page in the site where you can pull up the full line National Guard products catalog and review all things weather stripping from National Guard. Not only their thresholds, perimeter gasketing, door sweeps, material made of aluminum like the 428E, material made of architectural brass, or bronze I should say, architectural bronze, sometimes called brass, and also stainless steel. Their name is synonymous with weather stripping installations, and if you have any questions on the 428E threshold or any other National Guard product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.